everyone, welcome to Do Liz and a Midwife. I'm Lisa Houghton, your co-host. I'm here with Danielle Kavanagh and Sharon Marseille, and we're going to bring you a wonderful topic today, all about conception. We're going to be talking about how to prepare your body, how to eat right, all those wonderful things that will bring you to the perfect conception and bringing your little baby into the world. I'm a doula with a background in alternative health, and I'll pass you on to Danielle now to introduce herself, and then on to Sharon, and we can get started. Danielle.
Thank you. So lovely to be back with you ladies again. So I'm Danielle Kavanagh. I'm also a birth doula in the Johannesburg area. Looking forward to joining you all on this wonderful journey of conception, pregnancy and birth. Thank you, Sharon.
My name is Sharon. I've been a midwife for over 30 years, and I specialize in truly natural, not natural the South African way, but truly natural birth.
Sharon, so we can get started on conception, and I'm sure you deal a lot with your clients on preparing them on that journey from the very beginning, from preconception to birth. How would you take your clients through from when they approach you and say, we want to fall pregnant? What would be your suggestions? How would you move forward with them?
Well, I think that it really starts before that, in that mothers should be preparing girls for conception and for being mothers. And I think that in an ideal world, we would grow up beside our mums, talking about what our dolly's doing and bathing our dolly and having a baby and how did you get this baby out of your body, and particularly looking at the gene pool from where we have come, so that we can see, so what are our challenges when we're pregnant, when we're coming from this line of female genes. How did our mother give birth? How did her mother give birth? Do I take after her physically, or do I take after the women on my father's side? What do I have in store for me physically? Because if I come from a whole line of women who have birthed vaginally, then I know that I've got confidence knowing that's where I come from, that's what I should expect. And therefore, from a physical point of view, I can have confidence in myself. And then we would look at the relationship. So I think, if you look at your grandmother's generation, they came from a whole group of people who had home births. They were grown up differently. They were encouraged to know you're a woman. You're at some point going to meet a man and you're going to have a baby, and that was the end of it. And now, of course, we have more access to information on the Google machine and on, social media than we've ever had before. And sadly, as a result, we have more fear connected with childbirth, and we've reduced childbirth itself to something that doesn't matter. It's not important whether you're going to try that vaginal thing or whether you're going to have the baby surgically removed from your body. There is no competition. There's no difference. And of course, we know that there is an enormous difference. So I think that what our mothers teach us is the most important, because that gives a woman confidence regarding her pregnancies. If she comes from a whole line of women who've had hyperemesis or, exaggerated vomiting in the early part of pregnancy, then she's going to guard herself for that. She's going to look for ways that if I deal with enormous vomiting and nausea, what are my choices around that? Will reflexology help? Will acupuncture help? If I've got these things already in the pipeline, does that mean I'm going to create them in myself, or can I help avoid them? And yes, I think that that's the best way to start. What do you think?
Also, to Sharon, what you're saying about looking at the mothers, the grandmothers. And I think that's when my mother knew that, something wasn't quite right when, at 12 years old, I was having, periods that lasted 6 weeks. Because,
Wow.
she always characterized herself as the person who looked at her husband and fell pregnant, where her periods were, she could literally record it in her diary, and that's when it would come. And so from the age of 12, she gave me, she put me in touch with the right people. And I always knew that falling pregnant wouldn't always be such an easy journey as it was for my mother, because I later was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it's also, it makes me wonder, where in the family, would that have come from? Or is it, a lot of people are saying that nowadays our bodies, we're exposed to so many different things that our bodies are picking up all of these, complications. But I was very fortunate that my mother knew, okay, this is not normal, and what can we do to help? And so I was fortunate enough to be given the right channels, and I did experience infertility. So it is important for us to discuss with our moms, so that our moms can say, hang on, this is not normal. You've been trying to fall pregnant for such a long time. Why don't you go and see this person, or try this different thing? So it's really,
But I think,
yeah. Thanks, Lisa.
yeah, I think, Danielle, it's an important thing that you just said, is that girls should be so comfortable in talking to their mothers about everything, from growing breasts to periods to sex to everything. And I fear that we just don't have that. Girls are too embarrassed, or their friends aren't talking to their moms, so they don't want to be the ones who all mommy. I think we should encourage our girls
the other way around, that it's not for the girl to talk to her mother, it's for the mother to talk to the girl as she's growing up, that you make it a completely familiar thing. The fact that Danielle's mother was aware of how long her periods were lasting. She wasn't just the sanitary towel provider, we've got to buy this, we're in discount, we've got to, the usual thing. So she was aware of how swiftly she was going through them, and that therefore, there was a situation going on. And that if you're just, you're all cooking something in the kitchen and you're having proper conversations, it's just a natural way to discuss life. It should be, yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
It should absolutely be. And and I've got girls, and in their teenage years, their friends didn't know half the things that they did, because they weren't in a household that their mom spoke to them about sex. And I think it's vitally important that we create a safety for our girls, that they can come to us anytime with any questions.
But don't we also have a problem where we hand it over to the school, and the school, of course, is nervous and afraid, and what is discussed in the school, not by the teachers, but what tends to be discussed in the school, is wrong. We're so busy focusing on the drama of what is going on in the world today regarding sex, that we don't talk about the normal. What is
absolutely normal? And they focus on the, how not to have a baby, as opposed to what happens when you do have a baby.
And periods are completely taboo. You can't talk about it.
Yes,
absolutely.
And that any sex act, that involves penetration, can result in a baby. Do we think
Absolutely.
about that?
We're doing our favorite thing and going completely off topic here. We need to.
I'm sinking in the swamp.
I am too. So let's go back to you.
The ideal world.
Partner, the ideal world. You found your partner. You've decided together that you would like to move forward and have a baby. How can you prepare your body? So Danielle, you can maybe touch on the contraception, stopping contraception.
So a lot of us do feel that, the only thing that we really need to do to prepare our bodies for a baby is to just stop taking our contraception. And especially if we're taking hormonal contraception, there's a lot of things that we need to take into consideration. There's some women who've been on the pill for years, sometimes 10 years or more. And then suddenly, they've now found their partner, they want to have a baby. And so they think, well, I'll just go off the pill, or I'll take out my copper T, my Mirena, I'll stop having my injection, whatever it is. And without realizing that your body has to adjust to this hormonal change. I think when you're dealing with condoms and more, those kind of contraceptions, at least the woman's body is still kind of allowed to do her natural hormonal thing. She's having her natural periods every month, and so then her body is much more prepared to receive that baby on a hormonal and physical level in terms of that. But so with those hormones, it's with the pill and with things that you've been taking, artificial hormones, it's very important to give your body a break. I think it's important to allow your body to kind of reset to factory settings in that way. Then give yourself a couple of months where you're getting a period, and then you can start tracking, seeing what your body's doing. Are your periods the same as they were before you went on the pill? It could be you hadn't been having a period because you've been on the Mirena. So your body is relearning what to do. So, and I think it's also important then not to panic if you're not falling pregnant instantly after stopping your contraception.
And I think that's a very big rabbit hole that people go down, is that they instantly don't fall pregnant, and so then they start seeking medical help.
Yes.
And then you're in a roundabout. You just can't get off. So I think it's important to allow your body to detox from the contraceptive pill and go slowly. Sharon?
I think also it's important that there are women who think that if they're on the pill and they're having the bleed each month, that is a period. But it's important for them to know that isn't a period. That's a withdrawal bleed. So their bodies are not clearing out. They have been suppressing their hormonal cycle for as long as they're on the pill. And so if you're going to suppress your body for X number of years, and the pill was never designed to be taken for 10 years at a time. It was designed in the times of the hippie so that women could have free love, so to speak, for short periods of time, but not for a 10-year period, ongoing 10-year period. And so if you're going to be suppressing your hormones for that length of time, then of course you have to be patient with your body and allow it to reset, like Danielle says.
Absolutely. So moving on from the contraception then, so now you've come off all contraception, you're ready to go forward. when you talk about tracking your periods and tracking your ovulation, what does that look like? What does, how would one go about doing that? Sharon?
Well, it starts on the first day that you are menstruating. So the first day of that you are bleeding is the first day of your cycle. And the body is clearing out the lining of the uterus. And then it starts to make a fresh lining, so that ovulation can take place and a baby can be housed comfortably within that uterus. And so that I think a lot of mothers, women, think that ovulation takes place on day 14. But in actual fact, ovulation takes place 14 days before you menstruate. And so if you have a long cycle, a 35-day cycle, then you are ovulating at an entirely different time that you thought you were. If you have a very short cycle, and short cycles can also be associated with polycystic ovaries. So it's best to explore your own cycle and to see what your cycle is and when you think ovulation is taking place.
On the flip side, it's also when we get the surprise babies because you think you're not ovulating.
Yes, this is your safe time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Danielle.
On a personal note, it's for when I was trying to fall pregnant with my oldest son, I went to VitaLab. I had fallen pregnant before him and had a second trimester loss. And so I thought, it's fine. I'll fall pregnant again. I fell pregnant so quickly with this one. I'll fall pregnant again. And 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, I still was not pregnant. And so I did end up going to VitaLab. And what was amazing is they literally recreated a 28-day cycle for me in my body. With medication, and culminating in having an injection to release my little ovum, and so it was actually quite amazing going through that journey where I could literally track the conception of my child, which was quite amazing. And then subsequently, once I'd learned what my condition was, instead of going through this, quite traumatic and lengthy process, I went on to glucophage, which kind of gave me a much more normal cycle. And but I wasn't falling pregnant, and I realized that it is because I was having a 35-day cycle as opposed to a 28-day cycle, which everyone kind of expects and which everyone says is normal. And once I realized that, then I was able to fall pregnant with all of my children. And so, Sharon, I'm very interested to hear your take on these medications and, where you, if you've experienced couples with infertility and, if there is a more natural way of exploring things before people rush off to, fix it medically.
Well, I think it's also interesting to see the other side of that. That when women have been suppressing their ovulation for many years, and they assume that they are infertile and they've struggled to fall pregnant with their first baby, they do assume that the next one is going to take a long period also. And they don't realize that once the body has been cleared out and they have pushed that reset button, that they can be pregnant very quickly. And sometimes at their 6-week postnatal check, they discover that the universe has a very warped sense of humor and that here is the next one. So, I think everybody's journey is so individual. And I think that's why it's a good idea to have a good relationship, either with your gynecologist or, of course, with your mother, so that you can have these discussions. Of course, I would recommend that everybody see a midwife, because then you're going to have more time for discussion, or to have books around the house, the old-fashioned way of reading books, so that again discussion can come to the fore. Yeah, it's a hard
And
one.
how do you feel about, when it comes to meditation and releasing? Because I fear that a lot of the times women aren't falling pregnant because of fear, because of beliefs that they've been told, and also they fear having a baby. They fear the future, because what am I going to look like with a baby? What am I going to look like? What if my partner wants the baby and I don't? Or maybe they've had trauma in their lives, sexual trauma. They've witnessed their mother giving birth and losing a baby. There's a lot of fear involved with falling pregnant and starting a family too. And so I believe that meditation and therapy can go a long way to helping you fall pregnant, releasing that fear, understanding that this is your journey, not your neighbor's journey, not your mother's journey, it's your journey. And so I think we need to look at ourselves as well. What has happened in our past? Why aren't we falling pregnant? What are we not releasing? What do we need to clear before we can move forward with this pregnancy?
And Lisa,
I think that's the most important factor when it comes to getting pregnant, because if you're not going to have time for discussion as a couple before you are even married, if that is the way that you're going to go, or before you're going to be having sex, then very often it's she who wants to be pregnant, but perhaps he doesn't want to have children, or perhaps he's got children already from another relationship. And perhaps he is hoping that this is not going to happen. And exactly like you say, Lisa, there are so many women who don't think first about how is this body change going to affect my mind? Am I prepared to take on extra weight? What if he doesn't love my pregnant body? What if he thinks my bum is big now when in fact, it's a pregnant bum? What if he doesn't like my thighs? What if he doesn't like the color of the areola in the breast that changes? I've had women who have encountered all of these complaints, if you like, from men. So what if she doesn't like her body? What if she feels fat? Instead of realizing that this is a temporary change in which she is sharing her body with somebody else, that she is creating a whole human being in here, and a whole human being needs space to grow and to develop. And that then at the end of the pregnancy, then she can focus on herself. I say that in inverted commas, of course, because you don't want to be focusing on yourself entirely for as long as you're breastfeeding. You're still sharing your body. And like Danielle says, it's very nice after you have finished breastfeeding, for however long that takes you, that you have a period of self before you decide to share your body again with the next child. So in an ideal world, it comes down to communication again. First of all, with your mother, with your granny, with the line of women that you come from, and then with your partner. How does he feel about being a father? And what does being a father mean to him? Does he just think it's a couple of minutes out of his day and then, hey, presto, we're going to be a family? Or does he stop and think? So who was his father and who was his father? And what does it mean to be a father to a son? And what does it mean to be a father to a daughter? And has he considered what the difference is and how he might support his partner From a financial point of view, what if she is the breadwinner in the family? What about time off for maternity leave? How does all of that fit in? What if he's going to be the stay-at-home dad? What does the change mean? What about the medical aid? How does that support us in our choices? Will I be encouraged? Will I be supported by my medical aid to have the vaginal, the natural birth that I would like to have? Or is my medical aid going to rule my choices rather than suit my lifestyle and prohibit me from having the birth that I would like to have?
So essentially, it should be, I mean, we're talking about the woman preparing her body, but it should be a couple
Family
preparing.
first, isn't it? We're going to expand the family. It's going to affect everybody.
So
We don't
even
need
if
to
the woman,
when, big brothers or big sisters, they don't need to be interviewed. But yeah, it needs to be discussed. Can we afford it? The ideal world.
yes,
We don't know
yes,
what
absolutely,
inflation is going to do and if we're going to lose the job or all of that kind of stuff. But we don't need to get dramatic, but we can be realistic.
So now, with regards to that, okay, so now you've done all that as well. You've prepared each other, you've spoken, you've decided, okay, we're going to move forward on this. We're both in alliance. Okay, so what does a diet look like? What does a good diet look like for a woman preparing to fall pregnant?
Well, I think that's a fascinating question because, of course, what is killing us in the modern world is the modern diet. And sadly, again, because our purse strings are tight at the moment, we go for convenient rather than healthy. In the ideal world, we would be growing our own vegetables and having the toddler sitting in the vegetable patch, plucking the tomato and noshing it there. Then you're getting pure nutrients from the vine, from a living food. So ideally, absolutely, that's where we want to go. Unfortunately, when it comes to cost, then we look at the fast solution. And again, sadly, we live in a fast solution world where we do expect to get pregnant the first time we try, and we do expect to have the most harmonious pregnancy, and we don't look to see what my challenges might be. But when we're looking at cleaning up our diet, again, I like to come back to the discussion around what is our philosophy for eating. Do we plan to put the tablecloth down on the table? Do we plan to cook together, to share time in the kitchen, grating and chopping and preparing good nutritional food? Do we see ourselves sitting at the table? Because, of course, one of the great challenges of the modern world or the next generation is addiction to screen time. Do we teach our children to put the cell phones down? Do we have rules around the cell phone? Do we leave the cell phone in a basket at the front door when we come home? Do we have regulations around who can get in touch with us when we have an evening together? If we are eating together, we're putting bowls of food down on the table, like my generation were brought up to believe was normal. Then you're looking at sharing. Has everybody noticed that everybody's had enough? Does anybody need more? Are we looking at those aspects of human life? Or are you having Indian and I'm having Chinese and you're having the other thing and we're all eating in the back of the car because we're so busy and we're on the way somewhere? Or, as DSTV teaches us, you can be in 3 different rooms, having 3 different meals, watching 3 different programs, and never having a conversation again. So, again, in an ideal world, food should be about sharing. It should be about time together as a family, and it should be about nourishing a body. Do we believe in nourishing ourselves, or do we believe in fast, speed is all that is important. Can I go through the drive-through and eat it and drive at the same time? What does that teach us about constipation, about digestion? It's such an enormous Pandora that you have opened there.
My mother always said to, sometimes, when she comes to visit, she lives overseas. So when she comes to visit and she sees me and I'm rushing and I'm doing, and so when we have lunch, she'll like physically take my arm, sit down and eat. Don't eat your sandwich while making supper, and just sit down and eat. Have something to drink, and
because of course we complain about constipation, but we don't give our bodies time to digest.
And I suppose
why don't we look at
to mindful eating, not just what we're putting in our mouths, but Sharon, as you were saying, how we are eating. Are we sitting at the table together, or is it just grab that packet of chips? I always say that carbohydrates are the most the cheapest and quickest. So we're grabbing that bagel, or we're grabbing that granola
but
bar.
We can still make that healthy.
Yes, so we can sit down and have a bowl of granola with milk and and dried fruit, or we can just grab the granola bar in the box and eat it in the car on the way to taking this one to soccer and that one to tennis, and So
and isn't that about hollow food? We just eat hollow food. We just eat to fill ourselves up. We also tell ourselves that unless we've had 3 meals a day and 2 snacks in between, that we're starving. We tell ourselves that we're starving. We are seldom starving. If we look back again to our grandmother's time, they had one main meal. Yes, well, that's true, though. Yes. Yeah. Our grandmothers would have had one big bowl of something, a big pot of soup or stew or something, cooking and adding things to it. And you'd have your main meal at lunchtime. That gives you the rest of the afternoon to digest so that you sleep well at night, instead of eating your main meal at night, late at night, and then expecting yourself to sleep well and be comfortable. We are very strange people. We also teach children that it's okay, while we are sitting in a restaurant having a grown-up conversation, that it's okay for them to go and play, climb the walls, draw on the tablecloth, go and play with the nannies in the playground, go and make your own pizza, but don't disturb us while we're having a conversation. And so a great part of eating and teaching children about eating habits is that we don't teach them how to have conversation. And so now the modern teenager is at the same party as somebody else, but they're communicating with their thumbs instead of conversing. So there's so many aspects of eating that you need to interview yourself regarding. What does food mean to you? And what do you think you need to do? Because, of course, it's very easy to be given a list of things not to eat when you're pregnant. And then, of course, we panic about it. Oh, I had a peanut. Oh, my goodness, what does that mean? Instead of thinking about, where do my nutrients come from? What do I believe about food? And do we eat the same food? Because how many fathers do you have who he doesn't eat vegetables? So he doesn't have to eat them. So he doesn't eat salad either. So he's sitting at one side of the table having his meat and potatoes, and the children are encouraged to eat their vegetables. And so, how do we go about changing attitudes before the child arrives? Can we do that? What is the attitude going to be to things like Coke, Coke in the fridge? Is it just for dad, or, what's that about?
So the takeaway from this,
Puritans. Sorry, Lisa, because,
No, no.
now people are going to think, oh, no, chuck out all the sugar and, but, I think that it's a good idea to have a cheat day. And if you're going to have the extendable family support you effectively with your ideas regarding food and feeding toddler people, that you allow sugar or junk of some kind on a Friday, so that the grandparents know that they can give the ice cream, and you don't have to have those sneaky attitudes of, here's an ice cream, but don't tell your mother, or here's something
And you
dreadful. She
take
won't
it into adulthood.
And
Mm.
teaching
Well,
that
but you also have you undermine the family. You can't have grandparents having that kind of attitude and breaking down the authority of the parent. We need to have grandparents who are supporting our ideas. So we need to have more discussion around food.
Okay, but coming back, I love our spirited conversations. But coming back, our takeaway from this conversation now is be mindful of your food. Take time to eat, digest, be together, prepare together. And I think, when we're thinking about falling pregnant, it's wonderful in this ideal world as well. Prepare your meals together, digest them, be present, acknowledge your bodies. And I think that's a big takeaway, is that we don't acknowledge our bodies. We're just feeding them. We're just fueling our bodies. We're not understanding why we're fueling our bodies or how we're fueling our bodies. And so the takeaway is be mindful of what you're eating, and basically just prepare your body to slow down and be calm. How about vitamins and supplements? And I know one of your passions, Sharon, is folate, and how we should be doing it from the beginning as young girls, starting to prepare our body.
But if you are teaching young girls about eating well, folate is something that is naturally in your diet. It is not a hard thing to become.
But there's such a hype, and the number one thing every time somebody falls pregnant is like, oh, are you on folic acid? Oh, have you been taking your folic acid? Can you explain to us, maybe Danielle, you can also chirp in here, but what is folic acid? What is folate? And just explain that to our listeners so that they can understand that folate's the natural, folic acid's the synthetic. But how do we get folate naturally from our diet? And why do doctors insist on taking folic acid?
So, just on a personal level again. So when so I fell pregnant with my first baby 17 years ago, and that baby had a neural tube defect. So when doctors see a baby with a neural tube defect, it is almost always attributed to a lack of folic acid in the mother, that the mother was not taking enough folic acid before. And so truthfully, whatever, my diet, I've never quite been a person who watches what I eat. I've always enjoyed eating whatever I want. So it's possible that I was not getting enough natural folate in my body, but I didn't know that I should be taking folic acid before I fell pregnant. And whenever doctors would see my history, they would say, oh, just take folic acid for the rest of your life. So Sharon, if you can just expound a bit more on the differences. What is folic acid and what is folate, and where can we find it? What foods can we find it in? So we know that if we're preparing our bodies to fall pregnant, that we know that we must be getting that folate in our diets.
Now you've touched on so many aspects of eating there that it's just so interesting because, of course, we eat whatever we want according to how our mothers taught us. When we go shopping with our mothers after school, she's going to this shelf routinely, she's getting the usual pasta, she's getting the usual sauces, she's getting the usual stuff, either the margarine or the butter, and so that's our foundation for shopping. We will shop the same way. If we're brought up with shepherd's pie on a Monday, excuse me, and pasta and tuna on a Tuesday, then that's the habits that we fall into long before we've even met the man. And so then we follow on with the cooking routines, and we're teaching him this is what we eat. Maybe he's putting in his tuppence worth about how he likes to have fish and chips on a Friday or whatever. But that's the first thing to look at, is what is our habit? How do we create our habit around shopping and around eating? And if we just look at folate, folate is the natural source of the vitamin, and folic acid, unfortunately, is the synthetic one. It doesn't mean you're going to absorb it in the same way, and that's why we would rather have folate than folic acid. And if you look at what are the richest sources, if we are creating families that eat well and eat together, just a regular diet of a nutritional quality is going to give you plenty of folate. And it comes in dark leafy greens, brewer's yeast, root vegetables. So any kind of potato, carrot, turnip, swede, anything that is a root, you're getting your folate. Whole grains, oysters and salmon, separate discussion altogether. Whole milk, and so one of the challenges, of course, of whole milk is the propaganda around milk. Separate discussion again. But if the shoppers, the propaganda machine tells us that it's better to have skimmed milk or semi-fat milk or whatever the thing is, but it isn't. If you're going to drink milk, that it should be the whole caboodle, in which case there will be folate in it. But if you're going to cut things out of it, then, it results in all sorts of other quagmires. Dates, mushrooms, orange juice. And the bottom one would be liver. Again, another challenge when it comes to the pregnant body. Liver. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so in a normal, regular diet, if you are cooking vegetables and you're giving a balanced meal, and of course, to be a mother, if you are interviewing yourself about you're going to be a mother, you're planning to become a mother, then of course, part of that is, what am I going to feed the children? What do I know about nourishing a human body rather than just feeding it? Do I feed it soul? Do I feed it physically? Do I just fill it up? Do I encourage it just to have something? If it has an emotional challenge, do I encourage it to stick something in its mouth for comfort?
Yes.
So many aspects of eating.
Okay, and the Pregnovites, you get pregnancy vitamins that have got a whole array of vitamins in it to help with falling pregnant. Would you suggest that somebody takes Pregnovites before they even conceive, and should they be taking them throughout their pregnancy?
Are you asking me that question?
Because I truly believe we're not getting enough from our diet. And that we don't get
enough from our diet because the soil today is depleted because of our farming techniques. Soil is depleted.
Yeah, sure.
So yes, we need supplements. We need to supplement our diet as a natural, normal composition of how to eat well. But we don't need the synthetic forms of vitamins and
But if somebody's not getting their correct diet, and so budget restraints, whatever, they're not
but
getting
you can
that.
supplement them. Supplementing your diet is with things like moringa, with green power, with natural, organically grown supplements, which are going to be absorbed as food by the body. If you're going to be eating or taking something and you get that false sense of security around it, it comes in a sparkly purple box. And the manufacturer thinks, how can I sell this to women? If I make it sparkle, they'll want it. And so in those boxes, very often it is a synthetic format of the vitamin. It gives us a false sense of security, thinking that I have everything on board. But in actual fact, it doesn't mean that you are absorbing it. There are a few people who read the directions even. And if something is telling you on the box that you need to take this on an empty stomach, something like Floridix will tell you to take this on an empty stomach because your body will recognize it as food and will absorb it like food. But if it is telling you to take this with food, it means that your body needs to have a carrier of food in order to get this across all the barriers that it would naturally put up in place. And so, we need to read the boxes, and we need to see. I like my mum's to take Green Power because it's organically grown in New Zealand. So it's certified organic. That means it's been carefully created. That means that you're getting barley grass, wheatgrass, chlorella, spirulina, and seaweed, fruits from the sea, fruits from the land, all in one that your body is going to absorb. And then, of course, we need to do the antenatal screening, the bloods at the beginning of a pregnancy, to see what is the foundation, what is your normal, how are you normally running your body with the food that you normally eat? Are you lacking anything? That's the purpose of our first blood. So we find out, are women anemic at the beginning of a pregnancy? And do we therefore need to add something to their diet to build them up, to bring them to their optimal physical state while they are carrying and growing a human person?
And also a lot of people, and even doctors, they see, right, this mom is low in iron, so we give extra iron supplement. And what a lot of people don't know and don't understand, if your vitamin C levels are not right in your body, you're not going to be able to
absorb
that
it.
iron. So
and if we're looking at the natural sources of iron, baked beans are a wonderful source of iron. And if you have fresh parsley with them, then you're having that vitamin C component and you're consuming them effectively. If you're having toasted sunflower seeds, an excellent source of iron. And if you're having raisins with that, then a wonderful snack to have so that you're absorbing iron. So, of course, vegetarians are usually labeled as the people who are going to be anemic, but I find that my vegetarians are not the anemic people because they think before they eat and they have their food combinations more carefully than just following whatever their mothers taught them about eating. So if I find that a vegetarian is anemic, it's usually because of a digestive enzyme that they are missing. And so it's very easy for them to start taking a digestive enzyme, and it can be the difference to them for the rest of their lives that they're missing a digestive enzyme, and therefore they absorb everything more effectively. It's fantastic.
I love that we can get everything from natural sources. We don't need to take the synthetic. Absolutely. We all agree with that. But we have a group of people that will take the synthetic. They will follow their doctor's thing. Absolutely. And we've all been there at some point in our lives. We've taken what the doctor said. How can we get around this? taking the
I don't think we
synthetic
need to
is
get
not
around it because, you know, at the beginning of the pregnancy, when we do check the bloods, we can see, so you've been on this product for 3 months or whatever
okay.
it might be.
And
And
we'd be
this
able
is
to
the
see if
result,
it's
and
being
this is what the
absorbed.
blood is saying. You're either absorbing it, and in that case, so I don't put people on routine things at all. I will go
Yes.
through her normal diet because you know, there's no point in giving somebody a list of things, eat this, go and live like
Yes.
this, because it's just terrible. But if we go through her normal way of eating, her normal way of cooking, where she gets her nutrients from, and the supplements that she is taking, or the vitamins, whatever you want to call them, and then we check. I check it at 12 weeks. We check
Okay.
again at 28 weeks. We check again at 38 weeks so that we can see how are you managing whatever it is that you believe in taking. We need to support each woman's choice with whatever it is she's taking. But if she can
Okay.
see that she's been taking this product for 12 weeks and she's anemic, then she's got to change something.
Okay, I love that, because that's what I was getting at, is that we can't stop all these women taking these vitamins. And if it's working for them, then that's great. So, you know, it's really about understanding, working with them, as opposed to berating them for taking a vitamin, which 90% of people do think is beneficial. You know, we've
Why a
been
pregnant
brought up.
woman should be seeing a midwife, because we're going to have
Yes,
more time for conversation about her personal
absolutely.
needs rather than
Absolutely.
everybody take this.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yes.
medical rooms are more likely that the rep has been in recently. They're all promoting this thing. It's all wonderful, and everybody should be taking it. And that's how we, in fact, learned about iron, because in days gone by, it was just routine that all pregnant women were given iron. And then
Yes.
we realized that not all iron is absorbed by all bodies. Some bodies need a different format of iron. And so we need to look at each woman's need, because otherwise you just make them constipated because of the iron that you're putting into their body.
Yes. Okay, so Danielle, maybe you can do this with me. It's just our takeaway from today. What are your top key takeaways from today? How would you prepare your body to be pregnant, to fall pregnant?
So I think what we were saying initially is just allow your body that time to prepare itself. You know, especially if you've been on that hormonal contraception. So just give yourself that time to track your cycles. See, you know, just get to know yourself, get to know your body again, especially if you haven't been having a natural period. So just, you know, so to focus on that, just to get to know your body again. And I think also just, you know, that mental preparation. You know, we're so, especially when we're in that zone of, right, now I'm 35 or whatever it is, I've focused on my career, now I want to fall pregnant. And then we get so caught up in, you know, needing to fall pregnant that, you know, it becomes this mechanical thing that we do. Oh, ovulating, you know, we need to get going. And just allowing, you know, just to, that it's not just this physical mechanical thing, that it is also about the relationship with your partner. You know, so preparing your body, getting those hormones right, but also, you know, just preparing yourself emotionally and mentally with your partner, so that you're both on the same page, you're both in baby making mode. And then obviously also, you know, with, you know, Sharon's, you know, advice with the natural supplements, with the good diet. But, you know, for me, that's those are the, you know, the core things that I think people need to focus on as well.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me is to prepare yourself mentally. And every time you do make love or preparing for the baby, it must be a sacred moment. It must be not mechanical. It must be a beautiful moment inviting that little soul in and creating that baby, but also with your body. So preparing your body, creating that positive space, creating the calm in your body, and believing, trusting in your body, and letting go of fear. And that's a big one. Letting go of fear, past fear, fear of the future, letting go. Just bringing yourself back to yourself. And I think it's very important to be completely there, mind, body, and soul. Sharon?
And I think too that, you know, if in the ideal world we were making love and considering that we could be inviting a soul in by this act that we are participating in, then of course in that ideal world it's already a happy home that that child is coming into, to dwell in that happy uterus in which it was invited to live. And I think if we look at the differences in children, the difference in the rest of that child's life, whether or not it was an accidental conception or a deliberate welcome in, then wouldn't that be fabulous? And also talking to our mothers, hey, mum, I'm thinking about having a baby. What challenges might I expect? What was your pregnancy like? Did you plan it? Was it accidental? How did you get on with it? What sicknesses perhaps did you encounter? What was the mode, the model of childbirth like in your day? How should I prepare?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies, it has been wonderful. Thank you. A lovely spirited conversation today. Thank you again for joining me. And well, two doulas and a midwife, how can you go wrong? So we'll see you again in our next podcast. We're going to start focusing on the first trimester, so you find out you're pregnant and moving forward. Thanks so much, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.